Right. Let's talk about something you probably have in a forgotten jar somewhere, or stuck to the bottom of your car's cup holder, the humble copper coin. Yes, the penny. It seems completely insignificant, doesn't it? A tiny brownish piece of metal that you can't even use to buy anything. In fact, it costs more to make a penny than a penny is actually worth. Which is, and I cannot stress this enough, completely bonkers. But before we get to the sheer economic madness of the modern penny, we need to understand its epic journey. Because this little metal disc has a history that is surprisingly, almost ridiculously, important. It's a story of empires, revolutions, and the birth of modern economies. The story of copper coins starts long, long ago, in a time before streaming services and artisanal mayonnaise. Think back to the very dawn of currency. People were tired of trading 3 chickens for a goat, or trying to calculate how many pots equaled a cow. It was messy, and frankly, the chickens were probably not happy about it. So humans, in a moment of brilliant inspiration, decided to use metal, and one of the first metals they reached for was copper. Why copper? Because it was everywhere. It was relatively easy to melt and shape, and it was durable enough to not dissolve in your pocket on a rainy day. This was the beginning of a monetary system that would, for better or worse, shape the entire world. The first uses of copper as money weren't even coins. They were just lumps. Yes, lumps. In places like ancient Mesopotamia, around 3000 BCE, people used standardized weights of copper for trade. It was a step up from bartering, sure, but it was still a bit chaotic. You'd have to carry around a scale just to buy bread, which is not ideal. Eventually, some clever person, probably tired of getting shortchanged on their copper lumps, had an idea. What if we stamped these lumps with a mark that guarantees their weight and purity? And boom, just like that, the coin was born. The first true copper coins were a revolution, allowing for easier, faster, and more reliable trade for everyone, not just the wealthy. This wasn't just about convenience, it was about power. The moment a king or a city-state started stamping their symbol on a piece of copper, they were making a statement. They were saying, I am in charge here, and this money is official, because I say it is. It was a form of mass communication, a tiny metal billboard traveling from hand to hand, spreading the influence of its issuer. These early copper coins were the workhorses of the ancient economy. They were used for everyday transactions, buying food at the market, paying a worker for a day's labor, or maybe even tossing one to a particularly entertaining street performer. They were the money of the people, the financial bedrock upon which great civilizations were built. Now, let's take a trip to ancient Greece, a place famous for philosophy, democracy, and men in togas arguing a lot. While the Greeks are known for their beautiful silver coins like the drachma, they also relied heavily on copper. Their smallest coins, often called chalkoi or lepta, were tiny pieces of bronze, which is an alloy made mostly of copper. These weren't the coins of wealthy merchants making big deals. These were the coins of daily life. You'd use a lepton to buy an olive, a piece of bread, or to pay a ferryman. They were so small and of such low value that the phrase "not worth a lepton" became a common saying, the ancient equivalent of "not worth a penny." Which is funny, because we're still having that exact same conversation today. These tiny Greek coins were fascinating. They were often crudely struck and varied wildly in size and weight, but they were essential. Imagine an Athenian housewife going to the agora, the central marketplace. She wouldn't be carrying a sack of silver. She'd have a pouch of these small bronze coins for her daily shopping. The designs on them were often simple: an animal, a god, or the symbol of the city-state. For example, a coin from Athens might have an owl on it, a symbol of wisdom and of the city itself. So even the poorest person, holding the smallest coin, was carrying a piece of civic identity in their hand. It was a constant, tangible reminder of where they belonged. Over in the Roman Republic, and later the Empire, copper coinage was taken to a whole new level of organization. The Romans loved systems. They had systems for roads, for aqueducts, and absolutely for money. Their main copper coin was the As, which was originally a massive bronze disc weighing nearly a pound. Imagine that in your pocket. You wouldn't need a wallet, you'd need a wheelbarrow. Over time, thankfully, the As got smaller and lighter. The Romans also created smaller denominations, like the semis, half an As, and the quadrans, a quarter of an As. The quadrans was the classic low-value coin of the Roman Empire. The quadrans was the price of admission to a public bath, a loaf of bread, or a cup of cheap wine. It was the coin of the common Roman soldier, the plebeian, the slave. When the Bible mentions the widow's mite, a story about a poor widow giving 2 small coins as an offering, those coins were likely lepta or quadrantes. They were worth almost nothing, but they were all she had. This shows the profound social role these little copper pieces played. They weren't just economic tools. They were symbols of poverty, piety, and the everyday struggles of the vast majority of people living under the grand shadow of empire. They were, in short, the money that mattered most to most people. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, China was having its own, very different love affair with copper. While the Romans were stamping images of emperors onto round coins, the Chinese were casting coins with a hole in the middle. These were the famous cash coins. The square hole in the center wasn't for decoration. It was a brilliant piece of practical design. It allowed the coins to be strung together, usually in groups of 100 or 1,000. This made them much easier to carry and count, turning a pile of loose change into a neat, transportable unit of currency. It was an incredibly efficient system that lasted for, and this is not a typo, over 2,000 years. The Chinese cash coin was the backbone of one of the most advanced economies in the ancient world. They were typically made of bronze or brass, both copper alloys, and inscribed with the name of the emperor and the era of their reign. This meant that, like Roman coins, they were a tool of the state, a way for the emperor to assert his authority across a vast and diverse land. For the average person in dynastic China, these cash coins were their entire financial world. They were used to buy rice, pay taxes, and engage in all forms of local commerce. The image of a merchant with long strings of cash coins is a defining picture of Chinese economic history for centuries. Back in Rome, the copper A's and its fractions continued to be a vital part of the imperial economy, even as the empire began to crumble. In fact, as the Roman economy went into crisis, the silver content in their more valuable coins, like the denarius, was secretly reduced. Emperors would mix in cheaper metals to save money, a process called debasement. But the copper coins remained the most stable and trusted currency for the general population. They were too low in value to be worth debasing. So while the rich were dealing with increasingly worthless silver, the poor could still rely on their trusty copper quadrants to have a consistent, if small, value. It's a fascinating historical irony. The cheapest money became the most honest money. The legacy of these ancient copper coins from both Rome and China is immense. They established the fundamental principle that money didn't have to be made of a precious metal to have value. It just needed to be accepted, and it needed to be backed by a stable authority. They democratized the economy, allowing everyone, not just the elite, to participate in a cash-based system. The Roman as and the Chinese cash coin are the direct ancestors of every penny, cent, and sou that came after them. They were the small, unassuming gears that kept the great machines of ancient empires turning, one tiny transaction at a time. Fast forward through the Middle Ages, a period where coin production was chaotic and localized. Kings, lords, and even bishops were minting their own coins, leading to a confusing mess of currencies. But copper remained the staple for small change. In Britain, you had copper halfpennies and farthings, essential for buying a pint of ale or a loaf of bread. When British colonists started sailing to America, they brought this system, and its problems, with them. The early American colonies were a monetary disaster zone. There was a chronic shortage of official British coins, so colonists had to get creative. They used anything and everything as currency. Media Group, Spanish silver dollar coin, French and Dutch coins together, wampum beads, Native American trading Sini stock a distribute, equally, Spanish silver dollars, French coins, Dutch coins, and even wampum, beads made from seashells by Native American tribes, were all used for trade. To deal with the lack of small change, some colonies started minting their own crude copper tokens. Massachusetts produced the pine tree copper coin in the 1650s, a bold act of defiance against British authority. Other colonies followed suit. These weren't high-quality coins. They were often poorly made and inconsistent in weight, but they were desperately needed to grease the wheels of local commerce. Without them, you'd be stuck trying to make change for a massive Spanish dollar just to buy some nails. One of the most interesting pre-revolutionary American coins was the Fugio cent. Commissioned by the Congress of the Confederation in 1787, it was the first official coin of the United States, even before the Constitution was ratified, and it was made of copper. designed by Benjamin Franklin, it's a masterpiece of American symbolism. On one side, it has a sun and a sundial with the motto, Fugio, which is Latin for I fly, a reminder that time flies, so you should mind your business. On the other side are 13 interlinked circles, representing the original 13 colonies, with the words, "We are one." It was more than a coin. It was a mission statement for a brand new nation. These early American copper coins are incredibly special. They represent a period of intense struggle, innovation, and the forging of a new identity. They were a practical solution to a chaotic economic situation, but they were also powerful symbols of emerging American sovereignty. Each state issued copper, from the Connecticut coppers to the New Jersey coins, tells a story of local pride and a growing desire for independence. These were the coins in the pockets of the farmers, artisans, and soldiers who would go on to fight the Revolutionary War. They were the first truly American money, born not from a king's decree, but from the needs of the people. After the Revolution, the newly formed United States needed to get its financial house in order. The mess of colonial, foreign, and state-issued coins had to go. So, in 1792, Congress passed the Coinage Act, which established the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia and authorized the creation of the nation's first official currency. And what was the very first coin to be struck by the new mint for circulation? You guessed it, a copper cent. The flowing hair cent of 1793 was a big, heavy piece of pure copper, almost the size of a modern $50. It was a statement. America was here, and it was making its own money. The design of that first cent, however, was not exactly a hit. The image on the front was a representation of liberty with wild, untamed hair. Some people said she looked frightened. The back featured a chain of 15 links, symbolizing the 15 states at the time. But critics thought the chain looked more like a symbol of slavery than unity. The public reaction was so negative that the design was changed within the same year. This early controversy shows how much people cared about the symbols on their money. A coin wasn't just a tool, it was a representation of the nation's values and identity. Throughout the 19th century, the 1-cent coin went through several transformations. The large, bulky copper cents were eventually replaced by smaller, more convenient versions. There was the braided hair cent, and then in 1857, the mint switched to a smaller size and began using a copper-nickel alloy, creating the Flying Eagle cent. This was followed by the Indian head cent, which was produced from 1859 to 1909. Featuring an image of liberty wearing a Native American headdress, this coin became one of the most iconic and beloved coins in American history. It was in circulation for 50 years, through the Civil War, westward expansion, and the dawn of the Industrial Age. These 19th century copper cents were the workhorses of the American economy. A cent could buy a newspaper, a piece of candy, or a postage stamp. It was the standard wage for certain types of child labor, a grim reminder of the harsh realities of the era. The penny was the coin of the common person. While bankers and industrialists dealt in gold and silver, the vast majority of Americans conducted their daily lives with these small copper coins. They were saved in piggy banks, tossed into fountains for good luck, and passed from hand to hand millions of times a day, weaving the economic fabric of a growing nation. In 1909, something revolutionary happened in the world of American coinage. To commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the U.S. Mint decided to put his portrait on the penny. This was a huge deal. Before this, American coins had only ever featured allegorical figures like Lady Liberty, never a real historical person. The decision to honor Lincoln, the president who had saved the Union and ended slavery, on the nation's most common coin was a powerful symbolic act. The Lincoln cent, designed by Victor David Brenner, was an instant success and has remained in circulation ever since, making it the longest-running coin design in U.S. history. The original design, known to collectors as the wheat penny, featured 2 stalks of wheat on the reverse side, symbolizing national prosperity. This design lasted for 50 years, from 1909 to 1958. These pennies circulated through 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and the beginning of the Cold War. Finding a wheat penny in your change today is a small, tangible connection to that tumultuous period of American history. For many people during the Depression, a single penny could mean the difference between having something to eat and having nothing at all. The phrase "a penny saved is a penny earned" took on a very real and desperate meaning for an entire generation. In 1959, to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, the reverse of the penny was changed to an image of the Lincoln Memorial. This new design solidified the penny's role as a miniature monument to one of America's greatest leaders. If you look closely at a penny from 1959 to 2008, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial. It's a monument within a monument on a coin. That is a level of detail that is frankly, wonderfully absurd. In 2009, for Lincoln's 200th anniversary, the Mint released 4 special designs showing different stages of his life, from his log cabin birth to his presidency. The Lincoln cent is more than just money, it's a piece of American culture. It's the first coin children learn to recognize. It's the subject of schoolhouse lessons on history and civics. The phrase "a penny for your thoughts" is a gentle invitation to share. The superstition of picking up a penny for good luck is known by almost everyone. This little copper coin, bearing the face of a revered president, has embedded itself into the American psyche in a way that no other coin has. It is, without a doubt, the most famous and culturally significant coin in the United States. Now we arrive at the modern era, and the central, screamingly obvious problem with the penny: it's basically worthless. And not just worthless, it's anti-worthless. Since 2006, it has cost the US Mint more to produce a penny than 1 cent. In 2025, it costs about 3 cents to make 1 penny. Let me repeat that. We spend 3 cents to make something that is worth 1 cent. This is the kind of financial decision you'd expect from a toddler buying a magical bean. The main reason for this absurdity is the rising price of the metals involved. The modern penny isn't even pure copper anymore. The composition of the penny has changed dramatically over the years. Up until 1982, the penny was 95% copper. But as the price of copper rose, the value of the metal in the coin became worth more than 1 cent. People were literally melting down pennies for profit. To stop this, the US Mint made a drastic change. Since late 1982, the penny has been made of 97.5% zinc, with a thin coating of pure copper. So, the penny you have in your pocket today is basically a tiny zinc disc in a copper-colored Halloween costume. It's a metallic imposter, a fraud masquerading as the noble copper coin of old. This has led to a fierce and frankly hilarious debate. Should we get rid of the penny? On one side, you have the pragmatists. They point out that making pennies is a massive waste of taxpayer money. They argue that pennies are a nuisance, slowing down checkout lines as people fumble for exact change. Many other countries like Canada, Australia, and the United Kingdom have already eliminated their lowest denomination coins with no catastrophic consequences. The world did not end. Their economies continued to function. It seems like a simple, logical step to take. But on the other side, you have the defenders of the penny, a surprisingly passionate group. They argue that eliminating the penny would lead to a rounding tax, where businesses would round all cash prices up to the nearest nickel, hurting low-income consumers the most. There's also the zinc lobby, which, you will not be surprised to hear, is very keen on continuing to sell millions of pounds of zinc to the government to make pennies. And then there's the powerful, if less logical argument from nostalgia and tradition. People just like the penny. They like Lincoln. They like the idea of the humble cent. It's a battle of pure economic sense versus deep-seated cultural sentiment. So why does this little coin, this economically irrational piece of copper-plated zinc, hold such a powerful grip on the American imagination? The answer is complicated, and it has a lot to do with history and psychology. For one, the penny is a symbol of thrift and the value of small things. The saying, "See a penny, pick it up, all the day you'll have good luck," isn't just a children's rhyme. It's a small lesson in paying attention to details and valuing what others might discard. It represents the idea that great things can come from small beginnings, a concept that is deeply woven into the American dream. The connection to Abraham Lincoln is undeniably a huge factor. Lincoln is arguably the most revered figure in American history, a symbol of integrity, unity, and the struggle for freedom. His face is on the $5 bill, but the penny makes him accessible to everyone. Every single day, millions of Americans carry a small portrait of Lincoln in their pockets. To abolish the penny feels, to some, like a small act of disrespect to his legacy. It's not a logical argument, but it's an emotionally powerful one. The coin is a constant miniature memorial that has been part of American life for over a century. There is also the simple power of nostalgia. People grew up with pennies. They saved them in jars to buy a special toy. They used them in science experiments to see the effects of acid. They threw them in fountains to make a wish. The penny is tied to memories of childhood, of simpler times. Getting rid of it feels like erasing a small piece of our collective past. It's the same feeling people have about old phone booths or handwritten letters. They may not be practical anymore, but they remind us of who we were. The penny is a tangible link to a 20th century America that is rapidly fading away. Ultimately, the copper coin represents the very idea of a cent. It is the base unit of our currency system. While its purchasing power has evaporated, its conceptual power remains. It stands for the smallest possible increment of value, the starting point of all finance. To eliminate it feels like admitting that small amounts no longer matter, that we live in a world where only dollars count. In an age of digital transactions and vast wealth inequality, clinging to the penny can feel like a small act of defiance, a statement that the little things, and by extension the little guy, still have a place in the American economy. It's a deeply ingrained cultural habit that is proving very hard to break. So what does the future hold for the copper coin? The writing on the wall, it must be said, is not looking good. We are moving rapidly towards a cashless society. Credit cards, debit cards, and mobile payment apps like Apple Pay and Venmo are making physical money increasingly obsolete. For many younger people, a wallet full of cash, let alone a pocket full of coins, is a strange and ancient concept. In this new digital world, a transaction is just a series of ones and zeros. There is no rounding, no need for small change. Every payment is exact, down to the last, purely theoretical cent. The debate over the penny's existence will only intensify. As fewer people use cash, the argument for keeping a coin that costs more to make than it's worth becomes weaker and weaker. The logistical costs of minting, shipping, and managing billions of pennies every year are enormous. At some point, the government will likely decide that the sentimental value of the penny is no longer worth the very real financial cost. It seems inevitable that the US will eventually join the long list of countries that have retired their smallest coin. The penny's long and epic journey may be coming to an end. But even if the physical copper coin disappears from circulation, its legacy will endure. The story of the copper coin is the story of civilization itself. It's a tale of how we learned to trade, build economies, and establish nations. From the crude lumps of ancient Mesopotamia to the Roman, the Chinese cash, the colonial coppers, and the Lincoln cent, these coins have been in the hands of billions of people, witnessing the rise and fall of empires, the struggles of daily life, and the grand sweep of human history. They are tiny metal artifacts that tell a massive story. The penny may one day become a collector's item, a relic of a bygone era. And so, the next time you find a penny on the ground, take a moment to look at it. Think about its incredible journey. This object, or one very much like it, was there when the US Mint was founded. It was there during the Civil War in the form of an Indian head cent. It was there, with Lincoln's face on it, through the Great Depression and World War II. It has been a constant, quiet witness to American history. It may be economically absurd, it may be a nuisance, and its days may be numbered. But for over 2,000 years, the humble copper coin has been the money of the people. And that is a legacy that is worth far, far more than 1 cent.